Right now, you are wearing clothes. You put them on this morning without a second thought. You probably picked them based on the weather, or how you wanted to look, or just whatever was closest. But you have never once asked yourself why you do this at all. Why does every single human civilization on Earth, in every climate, in every era of recorded history, cover its body? The answer is not what you think. It is not about modesty. It is not about warmth. And it is almost certainly not about fashion. The real reason your ancestors started wrapping themselves in animal skins goes far deeper than comfort or culture. It reaches back into a chapter of human history so ancient and so strange that understanding it will change the way you look at the shirt on your back. Your body is naked. That sounds obvious, but think about it. You are a primate. Every other primate on Earth is covered in thick fur. Chimpanzees, gorillas, orangutans. All of them carry their insulation with them everywhere they go. At some point in the last several million years, your lineage shed almost all of that fur. And then, hundreds of thousands of years later, your ancestors started putting it back on, just from dead animals this time. The question that keeps anthropologists awake is not when humans started wearing clothes. The question is why they lost their fur in the first place. Here is where it gets strange. Around 1.6 million years ago, a species called Homo erectus began doing something no primate had ever done. They started running, not short bursts to escape predators. Long, sustained, grinding endurance runs across the open savanna, chasing prey until it collapsed from exhaustion. Researchers call this persistence hunting, and it is one of the most physically demanding things a living body can do. Anthropologist Daniel Lieberman at Harvard has spent decades studying this, and his findings are remarkable. Your body, even today, is built for this. Your arched feet, your long legs, your shortened toes, your Achilles tendon, these are not random features. They are the hardware of a long-distance running machine. But there is a problem with running in fur. You overheat. Any mammal running hard in African heat generates an enormous amount of internal body temperature. Most mammals can only cool through panting, and they have to stop running to do it. Your ancestors found a different solution. They lost the fur and gained sweat glands. Millions of them. More than almost any other mammal on Earth. Your skin right now is covered in approximately 2 to 4 million eccrine sweat glands, each one capable of releasing water that evaporates off your surface and pulls heat out of your body with it. It is one of the most elegant cooling systems in the animal kingdom, and it only works if your skin is bare. So your ancestors did not lose their fur by accident. Natural selection stripped it away because the naked hunters survived. They could chase prey for hours. They could run in midday heat when every other predator had retreated to the shade. The fur was traded for speed, endurance, and the ability to hunt in conditions that would kill a lion. But then, you have a new problem. You are naked, and the sun is not always your friend, and the night is cold, and the insects are everywhere. Nina Jablonski, a paleoanthropologist at Penn State, has written extensively about what happened next. The same skin that gave your ancestors the gift of cooling also needed protection. Without fur, ultraviolet radiation hits your skin directly. In equatorial Africa, where your lineage evolved, melanin, dark pigmentation, provided that protection. The earliest humans almost certainly had very dark skin, not as a racial trait, as a survival mechanism, a biological sunscreen grown directly into the surface of the body. But as your ancestors began spreading out of Africa, into cooler climates, into regions where sunlight came at lower angles and vitamin D became harder to synthesize, the calculus changed. Lighter skin absorbed more UV, which meant more vitamin D production. Natural selection began diversifying human skin tones over tens of thousands of years of migration. And it was somewhere in this long chapter of movement, of migration into colder regions, of crossing Ice Age landscapes where your bare, sweating, cooling-optimized body was suddenly a liability, that clothing appeared. The question is exactly when, and this is where science had to get creative. You cannot fossilize a piece of leather. Fabric does not survive hundreds of thousands of years. For a long time, researchers had almost no direct evidence for when clothing began. Then a team of scientists did something quietly brilliant. They studied lice. Specifically, they studied the genetic split between head lice and body lice. Head lice live in hair, body lice live in clothing. They are the same species genetically, but they diverged the moment humans started wearing clothes regularly enough for a new lice population to colonize the fabric. By sequencing the genomes of both louse populations and calculating their divergence rate, researchers were able to estimate when clothing became a regular human habit. The result? Approximately 170,000 years ago. Some estimates push it to 83,000 years ago. Either way, it is deep, deep prehistory. Long before agriculture, long before cities, long before any written record of anything. So your ancestors were wearing clothes for tens of thousands of years before they had words to describe what they were doing. But here is what nobody talks about. Clothing did not just solve the cold. Clothing changed everything. Think about what wearing an animal's skin actually meant. It meant you had to kill the animal, skin it, scrape the hide clean, cure it somehow, shape it, and fasten it to your body. That is not one skill. That is a chain of connected cognitive steps. A technology, something that had to be taught and remembered and passed on. Anthropologist Cynthia Stringer at the Natural History Museum in London has argued that the appearance of tailored clothing represents a cognitive leap just as significant as tool-making. It is not just about staying warm. It is about planning ahead. Imagining a future cold night while standing in afternoon sun. Modeling a problem that does not yet exist. That is the same cognitive architecture that eventually built cities, wrote symphonies, and launched rockets. And then there is the other thing clothing did. The thing that no one in your childhood ever explained to you. It created privacy. It separated inside from outside. For the first time, your body had a surface that was yours that others could not see, that existed behind a layer you controlled. Psychologists have studied what happens when that layer is removed, and the results are consistent. Nudity, even in non-sexual contexts, creates vulnerability, exposure, and a heightened sense of being evaluated. Clothing does the opposite. It gives you a shell. It lets you present a version of yourself to the world while keeping something back. Philosophers have called this the beginning of the private self, the moment when being human stopped being purely communal and became, at least in part, interior. What you wear now carries every layer of that history. The synthetic fibers, the dyes, the cuts and styles, the logos and labels, all of it sits on top of a 200,000-year-old solution to a problem your naked, sweating, sun-baked ancestors faced on the African savanna. You dress for warmth, for appearance, for identity, for belonging. They dress to survive the night. But the instinct is the same. Cover yourself. Protect what is vulnerable. Signal something to the world about who you are. This morning, when you reached for whatever you put on, you were doing something your species has been doing for longer than agriculture has existed, longer than any language currently spoken on Earth. You were participating in one of the oldest human technologies ever invented. You were, in the most ancient sense, doing exactly what your ancestors taught you to do. You just never knew you were still following their instructions.